Welcome to the show, everybody. Today I have Erin Vazquez on the show with us. And, I've been telling you guys I want to challenge you more about the music business and the creative life than just the marketing aspect, which I focused on for the last 18 months. So we've been talking to a wide variety of different types of professionals. And today might be the most far off center that I've went, Erin,
Okay.
from marketing. And well, I found Erin on an app, and I think what I'll do is her title and her history and what she did, I found very intriguing, very interesting. It's something, maybe it's not the most far off because it's something I have talked to you guys about on the audio podcast. The most two important mindsets is one of the podcasts that I did. And I think this is kind of where we'll end up going a little bit today. But Erin, why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about what you do?
Well, I'm Erin. And by the way, thank you so much for having me on your show and your podcast. I'm really happy to be here. I love helping musicians and creatives of all kinds succeed. So this is actually, it's really fun to be here. I'm a life coach. I'm master certified in neuro-linguistic programming, which is just a bunch of gobbledygook for saying that our language creates our reality. So I'm really concerned about how people are thinking in conjunction with the goals that they want to achieve or the life that they want to create for themselves. I also am a hypnotherapist and a master certified timeline therapy specialist. And those are basically, they all go hand in hand with neurolinguistic programming. And what I do is I either work with my clients, usually creatives, in either one-on-one settings or in digital class settings. And really, I go with both the mindset part, which is really important. But I've had years and years of marketing and business experience. So I'm able to bring that to the people too. And what I found was when I was strictly a VP of marketing, was on my side hustle, I was trying to help creatives because that's who I love. It's the creatives who don't have a clear A to Z. If you want to be a dentist, you take these steps and then boom, you're a dentist, or any other profession. And the creative professions, it's just kind of like, it's such a crazy winding road. And of course we can follow steps and we can do all of these other things, but there's so many ways to get off course, and the way to come back to center is through the mind. But I was trying to help all of these creatives on the side simply with marketing and building their websites and talking about their social media presence and their professional conduct as well. And they just wanted to make music. And then they were wondering why they were still like an artisan bread maker at Whole Foods. And so when I went down my path to being a life coach and helping people in a different capacity, it was pretty natural. And I put two and two together. And now, so now I marry the business with the kind of spiritual and mental part of it. Yeah.
That's a very similar path to what I'm taking now. So,
Cool.
I'm finding as I try to help music artists with marketing that they're missing other pieces that are relevant. And so I'm having them talk to people about mindset, about,
Yeah.
the business world, understanding the business side of it as well, not just the creative, understanding the awareness of themselves. I had last week a tax person on, understanding I got so many guys that aren't writing off studio time and features and leases on beats and videos they make. They're losing out on that tax benefit because they don't think in terms of owning a business, and they are a business.
Yes. We're speaking the same language. The cool thing is that we live in a time where there's unprecedented opportunity. There, you don't have to go be discovered by some producer or some A&R guy at a dive bar while you're performing. You can put yourself out there the way you want. But with this unprecedented opportunity comes unprecedented responsibility of understanding that you are the one responsible for getting everyone out there, or getting yourself out there, getting yourself out there, and in a way that is going to really be in your own best interest. And that takes action and concerns beyond your musical talent.
Yeah, we are speaking the same language. The way I've been phrasing that is that the internet has created the opportunity to do this without the labels now. But
Yes.
you have to be able to do everything that the labels did for you. You've got
Yes.
to learn some of the marketing. You got to learn storytelling and branding. You've got to somewhat build a team.
Right.
The internet has solved distribution, and it's cut down on marketing. And it, like you said, it's created an unprecedented opportunity. But you're going to have to become an entrepreneur, not just a studio musician.
Right. Right.
So you mentioned neuro-linguistic programming. So if any of you guys end up Googling stuff about this, you can also just do NLP and don't have to worry about spelling out neuro-linguistic programming. But you said with neuro-linguistic programming, it's about the words. But you also said at the same time, belief. Is it a marriage of those two, or is there one that you think is more important? Are we sabotaging ourselves by our thoughts or by what we're speaking, or is it an equal share?
Yes, to everything. A belief is simply a thought that you have over and over again. So it's not separate from itself. And the thing is that a lot of people run around thinking that their beliefs are some kind of like Cartesian truth set in stone. And sometimes our beliefs are really serving us in a really great way. And I'm not trying to mess with the ones that serve your highest and greatest good. If you're killing it, if you're making it as a musician, whether you want it to just be a side thing or you want it to be your bread and butter, you don't necessarily need to talk to me or anyone about it. That means you have beliefs and thoughts in place that are helping you do what you want to do with your life. So the sabotage comes in when we don't even understand that we have beliefs that are holding us back. Because what happens is it forces us to look at the responsibility that we have for the life that we've created for ourselves. So if it's language, thoughts, and beliefs, like obviously thoughts are comprised of language and beliefs are comprised of thoughts that are thought over and over and over again, then all of a sudden we can't necessarily blame the fact that we were born into a crappy socioeconomic circumstance, or that our sibling was favored over us, or a deep tragedy that happened in childhood. We all have, or adulthood, we all have the power to shift our thoughts and our focus into things that are better for us. But the thing is that the beliefs, and even more so, the decisions that we make at an unconscious level, the fact is that they're unconscious. And then we see ourselves bumping up against the same obstacles, relationships, career, financially, over and over again, because it's unconscious. We are not conscious of it. So it's once we start looking at those thoughts, those beliefs, those decisions, and we're willing to identify them and be conscious of them, that's when shifts can start happening. That's when the sabotage can cease to exist. So, yeah.
So I want to try to make this break it down as much as I can, because I'm a dummy and I want to understand it. So it's unconscious. So for others, I would try to maybe put it in terms of, you young guys really understand computers. So it's like the algorithm that's written behind the scenes. So we're using the Zoom application and we see on a surface the results of what that is, but there's a whole system behind this that's running and codes that we never really see. We don't pay attention to, we don't know it's there, but it creates what we're seeing now. So You're talking about these beliefs and thought patterns that sometimes we're not even aware of. In fact, I would argue, and I don't know if you agree, that our language doesn't match up for a lot of people, because I know guys, at least, and I don't know what their inner dialogue is, though. I guess that's probably what you'll point out, but who are telling me that they're going to be the greatest thing ever and all this stuff about their music, but the actions don't line up, and there's chaos all around them. So I'm not sure if they're self-deceived and they really think they're going to make it, but I can tell they're a hot mess, or if they're just projecting that, trying to believe it, trying to make others believe it, but inside maybe they're really struggling. But anyhow, let's get back to where I was trying to go with it. So I've had this experience more so now in my 40s of becoming aware of my limiting beliefs. In fact, I had a weird experience this morning preparing for the interview. But in that podcast I talked about at the beginning, I told a story about how I drove by a a house in my old city of Cincinnati, and I saw the sign out front and it had the value on it, and I thought, man, that's so much cheaper per month. But it was in a bad neighborhood. It was in a worse place than a position my family was in now, at that time. But I thought we could move in there and save money and sacrifice for a few years, etc. And then it hit me out of nowhere. It was like, why do you always think about saving money and not earning more money? To fill the gap, right? So I was like, man, I have a belief of lack, yes, and not a belief of abundance.
Yes.
So at that moment, I focused on really changing that mindset and started doing practices of repetition of finding abundance in everything.
Yes.
But I've been meditating for about a year at that point.
Yes.
So long story. Now I'm in my 40s and I'm meditating, and now this stuff is starting to come to surface. But I'm working with an 18-year-old or a 24-year-old or a 22-year-old music artist who's highly emotional, had an unstable upbringing. I'm not going to convince them to meditate. They're going to think it's weird in the beginning. So how do you challenge people to start to uncover beliefs that they don't even know is there, but is holding them back?
Well, you got to look at the discrepancy. First of all, you have to be willing to get real with yourself, because there's this weird necessity of delusion in the music industry. If you want to believe that you're going to be the next Kanye West, you have to have a certain level of arrogance. On the same hand, you also have to be willing to get real and do the work. Not only do the professional work of the colloquial 10,000 hours of being a really good musician, and then continuing to go and continuing to evolve and continuing to push yourself and go outside your boundaries and risk abandoning your old audience and all of that, but also doing the work of being a professional. And if you start finding discrepancies or excuses of, I didn't show up on time because blah, blah, blah. I've fired clients before because they were unwilling and unable to show up to sessions on time. And when I pressed about that, they said, I'm really creative, so I was in the zone. No, like, you're not going to get to where you say you want to go with that kind of BS. So you have to be willing to take an honest look at yourself. With this demographic of 18 to say 30-year-olds, it's a little bit challenging because the lens through which they view the world is so warped by social media. And social media is a great tool to give you something to look at, to aspire to. But all you see is the end result, right? And who knows if the end result is even the truth, because people can present it in any way that they want. I digress. But what they don't see is the Saturday night at home by themselves, figuring out how to upload something onto SoundCloud because there was a technical glitch, and then putting together their email list and all of those little things. Or they don't see the Friday nights just working out that one beat or that one bar of music over and over and over again. It wasn't out with like dating a bunch of hot people in the club, whatever it is. you have to get real with yourself. And if that's what you really want, that's what you're signing up for. You'll get it. You'll have those moments of glory and the Instagram worthy moments and all of that good stuff. But it's not nearly as, you have to check your motivation. It's not as sexy as it looks on Instagram or YouTube or whatever.
Yeah, 100%. And I pick up on that even in my space of hip hop music. You know, I hear lyrics like Drake talks about working so hard I missed the whole summer.
Yeah.
And you know, he joked about he had to bring girls up from Miami because they had missed the summer because they'd been in the studio working. And that's what you're talking about. Lil Wayne talks about not having a home but growing up on a studio bus and taking a mic every night into the hotel room and recording. And people don't talk enough about that or see that work ethic, or that it's almost an obsession. If you want to get to their levels of success, there's a cost. It's not necessary to make a living, but I think to go that deep, there's Charlie Jabley was a manager for 2 Chainz, and he tells a great story about going to a Grammy party at Drake's house in California. And he said, it's like everything you've ever seen, every music video, with the women and the drinking and the party and everybody and the jumping off the diving boards into the pools, beautiful home. Yet Drake wasn't present. And they found him in a converted pool house he had turned into a studio, and he was back there working.
Yeah.
He built this thing and everybody's partying and enjoying it, and he's still obsessed with working, which is why he's reached the level he's reached.
Exactly.
How important are the people we hang around to our belief system?
I love that question. It's everything. When you start on your journey of growth, of healing, of shifting your beliefs and your personal paradigms, you are going to change your social circle. So some people are not going to hang on for the ride with you, because when they see you stepping up and leveling up, it's going to trigger something inside them, like, oh, I'm unwilling or not ready to do that. And that brings up all their crap, right? So it causes tension in the relationships. I've lost friends. I have lost friends. When I came back from Unleash the Power Within with Tony Robbins, my husband and I went through a really rough week, because he's like, who is this person standing in front of me? We're good now, you know, like he loves and supports me and everything, but it was literally a completely different person standing in front of him, and we didn't know how to interact, and I didn't know that I was going to have to prepare him for that, or how to prepare him for that. You want to be talking to people who are at the level that you say you want to go to. And often there's a pay to play kind of thing. So you want to join masterminds. And if you're looking for the free ticket all the time, I'm sorry, you want to be around people who invest in themselves, who want the best, right? You want to be with the person who's in the studio during the party, and not the one getting wasted and having, you know, random sex with a random girl. I mean, like, not to whatever, you know, like, do what you need to do. But you say you want to be the next Drake or the next 2 Chainz or whatever it is, look at their behaviors. Success leaves clues. Be around those people. Drink up all the knowledge and literally copy what they do. If you're hanging out with the people who are dedicated to getting wasted and going to happy hour after work and complaining about how hard their life is, that was my favorite. Those were my friends for the longest time. Let's sit around and complain about how difficult it is, as opposed to, man, this week was really difficult. I wonder how I could do this instead of that, instead of this, you know, and just helping each other out. If you don't have the money to go into a high-end mastermind yet, start looking for your people through meetups. Watch, if you don't have the money to be in a room with 2 Chainz, watch interviews, stream podcasts, listen to the Tony Robbins podcast, Tim Ferriss, this podcast, but you want to be in those conversations. And if you're not in those conversations literally with those people, yeah, YouTube, podcast, that's all it is. That has changed my neurology over the last 7 years.
Absolutely, 100% agree. And the Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill even talks about creating your own mastermind with these fictional characters. And he, you know, people thought he was crazy. He got in such deep connection with these characters that spoke to him. And we can do that with books and podcasts. And I also would challenge you too, young person, and I call you guys young and kids because of how old I am. I know you're young men, but in your city, I guarantee there is somebody that is willing to mentor you. If you would show the humility to show up on somebody's door and say, I'm in this bad situation. I need help. I need a mentor. You're successful. What can I do to get your time? I'll clean the office. I'll take some trash out. I just need to be around somebody different. I guarantee you it's easy to find one. If you went and knocked on 100 doors, you would have a choice of probably 3 or 5 great mentors that you could choose from in your city, or keep them all and learn some different things from them.
Keyword humility, Scott. That's so good. To know that you might be taking out the trash.
Yeah. One of the things I challenge myself with is, I'm busy and I'm at an age where I want to focus on my family. So my friendships, even all my relationships, other than, I've got a handful of people that have been with me 20 plus years. But I am conscious of, I want to be the dumbest guy in the room.
Yes.
I want to go somewhere where I'm learning and just sit quietly and take it in. Yes. Or I want to be around young people that I'm able to pour into and mentor. I don't have time. I don't want to spend my time on anything else. I want to be serving, or I want to be growing. But I had my fun. I put that behind. I'm laser focused. So I challenge you guys on that. Are people afraid of success?
Yep.
Is that a real fear? Can you explain that to me?
Yes, actually, yeah. So that's a huge one on my healing journey, and it's still in the process of resolution. The first time I had a formal hypnotherapy session, it was a really beautiful, moving experience. I was able to see myself in the future. I was 30 years old at the time, and I saw my 60-year-old self, and she was able to say, like, hey, like, look at all of this. And it was cool because it was the first time I was able to visualize it, and Think and Grow Rich, you visualize what it is that you're creating. And if you're able to visualize it, you're able to form those thoughts around it and organize your action around it and everything. But the fear of success is something that stems usually in childhood in the first 7 years of your life, whereby somehow you unconsciously learned by osmosis that success will bring you harm one way or another, that you either will not receive love from your primary caregivers if you're successful. A lot of people learn that rich people are evil, and also that successful, or if you grow up in like the poor neighborhoods or anything like that, that you become a target, right? I learned that rich people are bad, and since rich people are bad, I probably would not get love from my mother because she's the one who taught me that rich people are bad. So the right thing to do is to struggle, to be humble, all of that good stuff. And it's really interesting because now that all of that is conscious to me, it's no longer unconscious. I can see some of the ways that she speaks about things. I fell in love with this house in Santa Barbara in this neighborhood called Hope Ranch, which is a very affluent neighborhood. And this house, like, it was on the market. There were open houses. So because of manifesting and you want to like feel it, I'd go to every open house that I could and just feel it and make it mine, And then my mom came out here to visit me, and she stopped in Santa Barbara to visit some of her old stomping grounds. And then she came up to Lompoc, where my husband and I are stationed right now. And she's like, I got lost, and I went to this neighborhood called Hope Ranch, and it's just so private roads and equestrian trails and da da da, like just talking mad crap about it. And I was like, oh, my house is there. And she was so confused. I was like, yeah, my house is there. It's there. And I didn't really explain. Like, I'm just starting to play with it now. It's not because she's a bad person.
Sure.
These are deeply ingrained generational narratives and values that come from family, religion, society. It's nothing bad. But that fear of success, if you unconsciously think that you will lose the love of your primary caregiver, then of course you're gonna stay broke, right? Of course you're gonna play small. So the fear of success is very, very real.
So you said you are on a journey to get through that yourself.
Yes.
And I will admit that I am starting to become aware that that is something that is surfacing for myself as well. There's some things that I believe I'm possibly self-sabotaging because of a fear of success. And even my wife, you know, we joke about things like winning the lottery and, you know, that conversation, what would we do with the money? And she says, she has a fear of success, I've realized, because she says comments about, we don't need that much money. It would only bring harm.
Yeah.
So, you know, we just need a little bit to do this and that. So
Yeah.
she has that belief too. So can you just a little bit maybe describe what your work looks like? Because I'm curious of like, how do me and my wife address this and fix it?
Well, one of the things is, what do you guys want? So if you have differing visions, like you want to keep going back to the vision that you're building together, but right now there's kind of like a chicken or the egg. And since she's saying we all need a little bit of this, and then since you're waking up to a journey, I can tell you want more. And you were able to notice your thoughts in the moment when you were looking at that house that was like, oh, that's quite a bit cheaper. What if we just sacrifice? And you're like, wait, no, what if I just earned more money instead? Right? So that's all to say. Start noticing the thoughts. It sounds so simple, but to really start noticing the thoughts and the patterns that come up around money. So it took me a really long time to figure out that fear of success was a real thing. Even when the hypnotherapist took me out of my trance and she said, what's the number one fear that people have? I'm like, oh, a failure. She's like, no, of success. That blew my mind. And it wasn't until a year later where I was able to like really accept and see that in myself. So it's really about starting to notice those thoughts. And then what thoughts do you want to have instead? What do you want to ultimately be true? Is my mom going to stop loving me when I'm a multimillionaire? No, she's not. It's not ultimately true. So what's the payoff? Like, so if that's not ultimately true, then why am I letting that belief drive my thoughts, feelings, and actions, which are the only three things that we can control? It's none of my business if my mom stops loving me, because I can't control that, right? And also being a fairly new mom myself, I'm like, you can't stop loving your child.
It's impossible.
No, it's so fucking profound. Like, I'm sorry for the curse word, but
No,
like, it's just so, yeah. Anyway, it's none of our business what other people think of us in the first place. So if I'm letting a certain belief control my thoughts, feelings, and actions, and it's causing suffering, for me, it was causing just anxiety. And like, as soon as I earned money, I had to get rid of it. And then I had like $100 in the bank account again. Earn money, get rid of it. Earn money, get rid of it. Like, I can't, like, and then, so okay, I'm doing that. And then what is the payoff? We all have payoffs by getting these beliefs, right? So the payoff is basically, I get to stay small. I don't have to go out there and tell the world who I really am, which is scary because it seems different. And sometimes it doesn't even make sense to me what I'm trying to do. All of these things. What's the other payoff? I get to stay comfortable. This is the other thing. If our comfort zone is a certain emotional state around money, mine was shame around not having it, shame around having it, shame around how I wanted to go get it, shame around wanting a house in Hope Ranch, right? When I'm being raised to think that everyone in Hope Ranch is just like some hapless douchebag, like, of course I have shame around it. So if that's my comfort zone, it's painful to get out of any comfort zone. But it's easy to stay in the comfort zone, even if it's causing us pain, even if it's not giving us the choice, the freedom, the full expression, the life that we get to live. We only have one life as far as we know, right? Like, why stay shamed? Why stay small? Why move into the house where we're sacrificing instead of saying, like, I have some really valuable stuff to offer to the world. Let's go. What can I do today? How can I arrange my time? And how can I get out of my comfort zone and say, this is who I am. Would you like to pay me some money for what I can help you to do? So it's about the noticing. It's about noticing when I'm going back into the old patterns of shame. One really recent example, because I love to be transparent. I don't want to give the impression that like business is all roses and daisies for me all the time. A client signed on. There's a no refund policy in my practice, and then he decided he didn't want it. It was his mom who was paying for him. It was a younger gentleman, really young, and I was like, oh cool, like it would have been so much fun to be like 18 and have a life coach. What a great gift, you know? So then I'm in this conversation about money again that's bringing me shame. So I stop, I notice the shame, and I'm like, this is the comfortable place to go to. What is the uncomfortable place to go to? To own my value, own my policies, own everything that I've built so far, and then tap into compassion, abundance, and gratitude, because gratitude is the ultimate catalyst for instant abundance, right? And then from that spot, instead of shame, from compassion and gratitude, I was able to come to a place where I was like, okay, I'm going to be flexible on my policy, because energetically, I don't want to like hold on to money that is just like tainted. So it's noticing the thoughts, noticing when you go back into your comfort zone, and being able to identify like, oh, my emotional home with money is whatever. And then knowing when you're going there. And it's a process, just pulling yourself back out, but you did it with the house perfectly.
It's a struggle. It is a struggle. What do you see that music artists you think commonly struggle with?
The music artists, more than any other kind of creative vocation that I work with, they struggle with a level of sensitivity around rejection and almost like comparison that I see more than the other creative professions that I work with. It's really interesting. So they'll put themselves out there and they'll do the thing, and then the response that they get is something that they don't like. It doesn't make the splash that they want, and then they will take like several steps back. And I want everyone to reject this at an unconscious level, because I don't want to make a hard and fast rule. But the musicians tend to go into a darker place, a little bit deeper, a little bit faster. And then I got to reel them back in, like really gently. The way to combat that, not combat that, is let the negative emotion be the negative emotion. If you're grieving an event not going the way that you wanted it to go, go ahead and grieve it. Let it be that. Don't be ashamed of the emotion. We just we had to put our dog down to sleep this week. And I see my husband trying to like push the grief away. I'm like, let it be sad. Let it be sad. It's okay. Let it be sad. And at the same time, we want to get the learnings from whatever it is. Like what's the learnings from the grief? Wow, it was really cool to put ourselves out there in a way that allowed us to love and receive love in a certain way. For musicians, bringing it back to musicians, maybe it was really cool to go out there and maybe you made a contact, or maybe you met someone, maybe you know met a potential business partner or music partner or partner, whatever it is. Look at that and then reconnect with your vision of the future, right? Are you the next 2 Chainz? Feel into it. Like I go to the house in Hope Ranch, feel into being the next 2 Chainz, whatever that is. Don't go into debt doing it. Go into meditation and do it, or give yourself a low cost way of feeling into it. And then from that space, from that motivation, start moving forward and acting from there.
I love that. You say go into it. I think about, when you said that, I was thinking about, man, how powerful all of this can really be. Like the actors that go into a role so deep that, you know, we've heard these stories, right? That they had to go to therapy afterwards because they went to such a dark place. They were having trouble coming out of it. Or how Jim Carrey drove everybody nuts on the set.
Like the Man on the Moon.
Yeah, because he becomes this character and he won't break out of it. He is it. And it's very powerful to really consider, because if we get an image in our mind that we want to be a certain thing and hold it, we can create that. Absolutely.
We can create it. There's all this stuff about being in the now, be present in the moment, and there's value in that for sure. Like when you're with your daughter, when I'm with my son, I don't want to be thinking about sending out an e-blast or doing a Facebook Live or anything. I want to be with my son as he's, you know, playing with blocks or whatever. But the be in the now is actually really damaging when it comes to business and manifesting like a really beautiful life, because our actions are actually informed by our vision of the future. So if our vision of the future is more positive, is full of more choice and freedom and ease and creativity and connection and love and all of that, we're going to behave in a certain way if we're pulled forward by that emotion. If our idea of the future is shaped by the ideas of the past, like if I continue to let my ideas of the past, my experience of the past, i.e. Shame around money, shame around being who I really am, you know, like no one in my family understands what I do. They don't get it. Like they're like, you what? You work with artists? Why? Like, and you meditate with them? What do you do with them? What do you mean language creates your reality? They don't freaking understand. So if I let that shame and embarrassment and the dampening of my own intuition and vision inform my future, it's going to be looking way different than me driving to Hope Ranch and wandering around a house like it's mine, you know?
Yeah. So I think that's a great place to maybe wrap this up. So you say that people close to you don't understand what you're doing, what you believe, what you're saying a lot of times. So there are a lot of people who think this is kind of woo-woo, a lot of the stuff that's out there, whether it be vision boards or NLP or tapping or the law of attraction, transcendental meditation, whatever you want to talk about. You know, my parents would be like, whoa.
Yes.
So where is a good introduction, do you think? What's a good place for somebody to start learning and get comfortable, that wouldn't overwhelm them or freak them out?
I think if what I'm saying sounds a little bit woo-woo, I think a really good person to start listening to is Tony Robbins, because what the law of attraction gets wrong is that you have to take action, right? It's both. It's the meditation and the networking. It's the healing journey and the email blasts. It's the you know, it's the willing to go inside and doing the 10,000 hours to be a really good musician. So Tony is all about the massive action. He's all about shifting the thoughts and the emotion and the physiology. And he's not at all woo-woo. He gives you practical steps, and he will elevate your mood. Like, his energy is so infectious. So he, you know, there's tons of YouTube, and then his podcast, like, go binge on it.
I've got a course that Chloe Madden did, and used parts of his seminars where she explained what was happening there.
Yes.
And when I went through the 6 human needs part of it, changed my life.
Yeah.
My number one need is growth. And for years, everyone had accused me. I accused myself. My wife accused me of being a workaholic because I couldn't turn it off. I always had to be reading nonfiction, watching documentary, working on the business, and, you know, Saturday night, you know, Sunday night. But when I went through that process, and then I came to the discovery that growth was my driving force in life, I realized I wasn't working. I was growing. That's why I was always wanting to read a book. I was always wanting to watch a documentary. I was always doing research about the work I was doing because it was feeding that number one need of mine.
Yeah.
And so that awareness helped me out quite a bit to realize I wasn't a workaholic, and also to realize that I had that need for growth. So then I started to get control of it. I started scheduling things better. And my wife understood better, you know, that I needed to feel like I had grown each day before I could break free and then focus on other things. So I'm a huge fan of Tony Robbins and all his courses and work. And you're right, he breaks it down to a much more palatable, acceptable level, and adds the science and the business to the work.
Exactly. Yeah. I love it. I love that you were able to identify that and then also share that with your wife in a way that allowed her to say, oh, he's not being a workaholic. He's actually serving something that's so fundamental to him. And then it allowed you to arrange your time. See, it's all very practical, right? But the growth is also a spiritual thing for you. So it's all intertwined. But Tony is very palatable in the sense that he's definitely not surrounded by crystals. He's not, right? Yeah, but yeah, he's great. He's a great stepping off point.
Absolutely. Erin, tell everybody where they can find you at.
You can find me on Instagram at Erin T. Vazquez, and that's Vazquez. On YouTube here at Erin Vazquez Success Coaching. You can subscribe to me here. And if you go to my website, which is erinvazquez.com, there's a little pop-up and you can get a free hypnotherapy track about reaching your next level. So it addresses expanding into outside of your comfort zone so that magic can happen.
If any of you guys get on that email list, take that course, or have enjoyed this show, reach out to me as well. This is one of my favorite conversations to have, and I would like to know which of the music artists that I've been working with or talking to can kind of dig this and feel this and want to explore it more, because I would love to have those conversations with you as well. Erin, I really appreciate your time today. This has been a blast.
Thank you. I've had such a really nice time. Thank you for having me.